pod smashers of the internet, and welcome to another episode of
80-Bit Pod Smash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer.
We're your hosts, Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
That's right, and tonight we are, as my sultry voice indicated before, talking about video game romance systems in honor of Valentine's Day this week. Duh. So if you forgot it was Valentine's Day week, and you have a significant other that you want to not be mad at you, it's Valentine's Day week, and Penguin and Termite have got your backs. Go get some flowers, get some chocolates for the one you care about, and we'll talk about all the different romances that you can have in the significant others you may or may not have in your video games as well. And it doesn't have to be someone you're romantically involved with. If you care about someone and you want to make them feel special on Valentine's Day, then by all means, we do not want to disclude anyone out there who is single but deeply cares for others. And if you are single and feel like no one cares for you, Penguin and Termite do, reach out to us. We want to give you some love in a totally platonic and fun
internet way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gosh, how many disclaimers are we going to need for this podcast? We may, because of the nature of what we're talking about, obviously, we may have to sort of make a sort of blanket disclaimer that we may be hinting at some adult things. We're going to try to avoid being explicit in any way, but the nature of some of the games we're talking about is very mature. So if you have kids and you are not comfortable with the potential of having to start an awkward conversation with them, then by all means, maybe pass this episode by.
Generally, we're very family friendly, so I would put us on like the PG range. We're going to upgrade to like the 13
PG-13.
to 17. Yeah.
I would even say PG-13. A solid 13. We're not going to get into NC-17 anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay,
so, cool. Great. Then we are, though, where gaming goes to grab a beer. So we want to talk about that before we get into anything else. So what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking, it's a repeat, but I don't remember the last time I had it on the show. So, a little bit of a story. We had a snowstorm in Fredericksburg that kind of dates when we were recording it.
We'll be talking about it.
And there has been a COVID exposure in my life, and so I've had I have to quarantine. I cannot go anywhere, and it's going to snow, which means I'm not going. I mean, it's it. Like I'm double booked stuck at home. So, an amazing fashion that COVID has brought about is the ability to buy good craft beer and stay safe and not have to interact with a single person with curbside pickup. They just drop it off to your car. So I called up a local brewery, Spencer Devon, and they're still offering this cool deal. They're 4-packs of pints called Dealer's Choice, and you don't pick the beer. They just bring them to you, and each Dealer's Choice pack is a 4-pack of 16-ounce cans, and it's a big mixed bag of beers. So I bought 2. That gave me 8 pints for my wife and I to enjoy over the snow event, knowing we're not going anywhere. And one of those beers is what I'm drinking tonight. It is called Locks Island IPA. It is a West Coast style IPA made with Centennial and Euconaut hops with notes of dark pine and tangerine. And it's awesome. I've had it before, probably on the show. I know I've had Spencer Devon beers on the show before, so there's that. Go check it out if you're in Fredericksburg. They are amazing.
Fantastic. I finally got a new beer for the show after a month or so of Troganators.
Who are you? What did you do with Penguin?
I got something fun, and it's perfect that I'm first talking about this on Valentine's Day, and I didn't even realize it until just now. But I am drinking, and I did get a little teaser though to see if I would like this because of the aforementioned snow. There's nothing better than drinking a perfect winter beer while watching the snow fall, and that's what I did. But without further ado, I am drinking from Hardywood here in Richmond. In Richmond, not here in Richmond, but down in Richmond. I am drinking their raspberry stout. I don't know if you've had this.
Ooh, yes, it's awesome.
It's so good, and I was first kind of blown away because it is very strong, much stronger raspberry than I expected, and I expected sort of like a subtle hint of raspberry, but it was almost to the level of being a sour. And so like but you could also tell like it was full bodied and thick and malty and chocolatey like a stout is. And so I was it took me a little bit but once I got used to it, I loved it. And the thing I like about it most is you can tell that it is actually brewed with real raspberries. It's not like artificial raspberry flavor or anything like that. It's not like something you would get in like a raspberry cheesecake or whatever. It is like, it tastes like actual raspberries. So I will read the description real quick. Chocolate stout made with Virginia red raspberries. Hardywood Raspberry Stout is brewed with chocolate malt, cocoa nibs, and late-season red raspberries from Agraberry Farm in Hanover, Virginia, locally sourced. Our raspberry stout is full-bodied, beguiling ale with notes of rich dark chocolate and raspberry jam. It's awesome. They come in these nice bigger, like 16-ounce cans. And I felt good after drinking the first one, so I'm expecting to feel pretty good tonight. But raspberry fruity, chocolatey, it's such a Valentine's Day beer. So go get this.
Exactly what it is.
Split with your significant other if you're looking for something. Mm-hmm. I would highly recommend Hardywood's Raspberry Stout.
Yes, I concur. It's very good. It's delicious. You talked it up so much, I want one.
Well, come over. You're special.
Aw.
Yeah, come share my.
You can't see me until another 10 days.
I know, because you're going to. Well, I mean, hey, that's Valentine's Day. It's perfect.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, moving right along to. Is there anything else you want to discuss before we move on to our other segments? This is kind of a section that's kind of open these days. So, what's going on?
So, I went to put my 5-year-old to bed, and he has been interested in the Bakugan toys. And they're like this arena game with a toy that has like these little transforming minifigures that transform into balls, and there's launchers for the balls, and you launch them into a ring, like a circular ring.
Yeah.
And there's a card game associated with it. And with the card game, of course, I associated to like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon or Magic. And I'm like, I wonder if there are cards that are worth any money. I'm going somewhere with this story. So I was putting him to bed, and kind of like halfway sticking out from under his little playmat rug was a Bakugan card that was kind of shredded. And I kicked it to like move it out of the way, and I will throw it away tomorrow. But at the moment I was like, I'm not worried about it. I don't want to draw any attention to it right now. But then I thought, imagine how many first edition Charizard cards existed in kids' bedrooms that babies got to and shredded them. And now they're worth ridiculous amounts of money, and that was just wasted. So I don't know if Bakugan cards are worth any money, but it did just make me think of like what valuable objects in like our childhood or in our like parents that had bought us things that just kind of got tossed aside and destroyed through regular
that's like,
kid play.
There's so much of that. Like when you talk to actual historians, like if you talk to anyone, and even just a history buff, anyone who knows anything about history, and just ask them the question, like, what do you think is the most regrettable loss, like cultural loss? It's like this stuff dates back. I mean, think about like the Library of Alexandria. Most people would probably say the Library of Alexandria burning, but like that's like things that people like agonize over is like how much priceless artifacts or things have just been lost because of something stupid happening to them. You know what I mean? Like someone lost it, someone misplaced it, someone got angry and threw it in the ocean. You know what I mean? Like that's, but it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, you are literally a part of history being lost as we speak, a rare or potentially rare, priceless, valuable thing being lost.
Well, I don't think that card is actually rare. It came with one of his toys, which you can just find on the shelf. It's not like one of those buy booster packs and hope
fair
to like open this 0.01% chance of getting this one exclusive card. But it just made me think about how easy it could have been for any child who grew up playing things like Pokemon or Magic to have like little brothers or sisters, like babies, that would just go in and shred the cards up, and they're all too young and parents are too naive.
That's
to really
why
understand.
Nintendo coats their Switch cartridges with a very nasty flavor so that kids don't come in and eat them.
Yep.
Or put them in their mouths or whatever that could potentially damage them or damage the child. So that's.
And I remember like growing up, all of the different fads that were like valuable. So Beanie Babies were a thing that were super valuable. Like Furbies were hard to find, and Tickle Me Elmo, and like those are great in the hype moment when they come out. But it's like the historical stuff. So now it like the Star Wars toys that came out in the 70s, and the G.I. Joes like that came out in the 70s. Like those can be really valuable if you can find them still sealed and such. And I know like we have Amiibo now. How many Amiibo are going to be worth ridiculous amount? I know every Amiibo I have on my shelf right now, which is the entire set of all of the Legend of Zelda Amiibo. Thank you, Justin, for the Bokoblin Amiibo that completed that collection. Friend of the show. Again, I thank him profusely all the time. He's probably sick of hearing it by now. But that set of Amiibo out of the box is already worth more than they were retail new. So like Anyway, it was just a fun tangent thought as I was kicking aside this worthless Bakugan card of like how many parents really just kicked something that is so cherished and valuable today aside, like I did to that Bakugan card.
Right. It's not even necessarily like a baby coming in and shredding it. Like, how many parents were just like, whatever, like, this garbage. My mom sold my entire collection of, or not my entire collection. She put my entire collection of Pokemon cards up for sale, and like some kids came in and bought all of my rarest cards from my mom for like 75 cents or something ridiculous like that, or like 75 cents a card. Or my mom was like, look, you made $5. I was like, what? Are you kidding me, Mom? So yeah, that kind of stuff happens all the time. So I remember being livid and like taking the whole like coin purse of, like, it was literally like coinage, like just pocket change, and I like threw it up against the wall. I was so like, my cards. Yeah, so sad. But yep, that's crazy. It's a good thought. I like that. Good parenting thought.
Yep.
Cool. Well, then, losing potentially rare and valuable pieces of gaming history that could sell for lots of money are not our favorite things, but
doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Favorite things.
Favorite things is an opportunity for us to let you get to know us better by sharing the thing that we're most excited about from this week that we either discovered or rediscovered. And it's all in hopes that you might be inspired to go out and find your next favorite thing. So, yeah, I'll start. My favorite thing is the snow.
Yep, I figured it would be.
Freaking
I had to purposely think of something else. Yep,
That's
I could
funny.
not copy the snowstorm, but it was so good. It was so fun.
Right, yeah, you can't necessarily go out and find that or get that, but it is my favorite thing from this week. I was so excited to finally get measurable snow, not just a dusting, not just flurries, but I got to go outside with my son. This was his first proper snowstorm too. We didn't get anything the year he was born, and we didn't get anything last year. So this was his first snow. So yeah, I went out and built a snowman with him. He didn't really spend much time building a snowman, but he loved going out in the snow and just crunching around. I went out a second time that day and shoveled the driveway, but of course I brought my son out with me to, play in the snow. And to distract him, I just handed him a stick, and he was just having a ball, just knocking snow off of the bushes and knocking snow off of everything. He's almost 2, and that was like, it was just so much fun and so good to get out there and enjoy the winter weather for once in this, because this has been a couple of dry years for us here in Virginia. So I was really glad to get that. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
I did find I needed new snow boots though. And so I got some new snow boots off of Amazon because I discovered that literally the rubber soles of my boots were coming off. I had duct taped them the last time, but it's been so long I hadn't been felt the urgency to get new ones. So literally came back in from shoveling snow and ordered a new pair of boots for myself.
That's awesome. Yeah, I also enjoyed the snowstorm. That would have been my favorite thing, but I knew you were going to take it, so I want to just be like copycat. So I'm going to say that my favorite thing has been Sea of Thieves throughout the time I've been home and the snowstorm. I've had some time to play it as it's kind of a kid-friendly game. There's the scariest thing is like skeletons and ghosts that are cartoonily animated. So it's like, whatever, it's fine. I have had a blast playing it. I really, really wish I had some friends to jump in with. Done some things that I never thought possible.
Hint, hint.
Yes, right? Go get it and play with me, please. And stuff like when I play See It, it's a kind of complicated game to pick up, which now I know and I can walk people through it, so I could articulate and teach people how to play and like get their bearings. But whenever I was playing it, I'm like, oh, there's all this crazy stuff that can happen to you, and that's just beyond me. That's like for people who play the game regularly and like end game, like stuff like what happened to me was I'm sailing along and the sea underneath the boat turns black and the boat stops moving, and that is ink because you've encountered a kraken. And up pops tentacles out of the water, and it smacks your boat, and it grabs your crewmates and throws them off the boat into the water, and it's insane. And I was like, oh, I've read about this. I know it exists, but that's for endgame. That's for people who played a lot. I'm done. I'm just going to like die, and it's not going to work. Well, I had one other friend online who's not actually a friend. He's just a stranger, some rando.
A rando.
The two of us used the cannons on my sloop, which there's only 2, and downed the kraken. And we used stock equipment. It's the normal cannonballs that are already on your boat, and it was starting guns that we had from the beginning of the game. Like nothing was upgraded. It was just a straight up encounter, and it worked. And it made the game that much more approachable, and the barriers of entry just shattered at that moment in time when I was like, oh, I can do this seemingly end game event right here and just have a blast. I mean, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like, that reminds me of the feeling I had with Bloodborne. I know I talk about this to death, but like when it suddenly clicks and it's like, oh, this is way less intimidating than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Is a really fun feeling in gaming, period.
Mm-hmm. I don't have it or encounter that very often. And then soonly after sinking this Kraken, we go to the island for our quest and we loot the thing. We do the quest. It's easy. And then we come back to find that another another player character has encountered us and they're shooting us with cannonballs, which is generally a PvP fight that I die every time. Like, I just die. Well, this time, I had a crewmate, so we manned our cannons and we started firing back. I used the harpoons to link our ship to the other one just on a whim. The harpoons come with the ship. You get them day one. It's all starting equipment. Nothing was added to our encounter by playing for hours. Like, I could have done this day one with the equipment we had. So I linked the harpoon, I turned to the ship, I dropped the anchor and did like some crazy drift turn maneuvers to like move the cannonball out of the cannonball fire from the enemy ship. And because I had one crewmate to be able to man the cannons while I was doing that, it worked. And we sank a ship. And I was like, I've never done this. This is amazing. I always lose. I always just get rocked and wrecked because everyone else has more experience than me. And I don't even really care. It's just whatever. But this time, both of those things happened in one play session. And that was single-handedly my favorite thing this week, outside of a snowstorm and the snowman I built with my son and all that awesome stuff that you stole my thunder. So now I talk about Sea of Thieves.
That's okay. We can both have snowstorm, and then I'll have another one too, because I'll throw out my other non-snow favorite thing is I platinumed 2 games over the course of like a 24-hour period, and I've been working on them both simultaneously. But I think this is the closest platinums I got back to back together, and both games were really fun and phenomenal. Although I have one caveat to that statement. The first game I platinumed on Sunday, I believe, was Nier Automata. So good. I cannot believe I never finished it. I had a PC game, but I never finished it. And maybe it's because I did all the side quests and got burned out because it was just too much content. But because of the trophy shop, because I was going for trophies and I had already done most of the content in the game while playing it on PC, I gave myself the liberty to just do the main story and beat the game and then go get all the rest of the trophies. And man, was it fun. Like, it was so good. And like again, the quality of the story was like surprisingly good by the end and very compelling. And I was very emotionally invested in it. And then like, there's this whole thing at the end where you can like, where you shoot the credits, very Smash Bros. Like, and you try to destroy the credits basically using the like bullet hell, shooter tactics or whatever for you encounter throughout the game. And it was so satisfying. I did it twice. At the end, you have the option to sacrifice your game save to help another player. So I did it once to not do that so I could get the trophy shop. And then I did it a second time to sacrifice my game save because I felt so inspired because the whole like concept of like the game at the end was like helping others and working together and like standing up for the weak or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I'm into it. So it was very good, very fun. The whole experience has been amazing and has been stuck in my head for so long. What's nice is you can save scum it. You can back up your save file on the cloud and then sacrifice your save data forever to help other players in the bullet hell at the end. And then
so if you really cared about other players, you would just do that over and over again for days.
Yeah, exactly.
Sacrifice,
exactly.
Okay.
No, I think all you have to do is do it once, and then it forever helps. Like, it will forever be there to help other players. Like, yeah, it's cool. So it's a really interesting system, really unique. But got that platinum, and then followed it up with I was a lot further along in the platinum than I guess I thought originally with Demon Souls. So I wrapped up playthrough number 2 in Demon Souls. Had to do a partial playthrough 3 because of stupid decisions I made in my first playthrough. But I wrapped that up and got the Demon Souls Platinum today. So I am 2 platinums into the year, or sorry, 3 platinums into the year with Sekiro. And both those games were great. I mean, I really did enjoy Demon Souls. I will say the caveat I mentioned earlier was there were some really frustrating things about that platinum trophy that did take away from the experience a little bit. But all said and done, I enjoyed the experience and will probably come back to Demon Souls at some point as well. So
there you go.
Cool.
Demon Souls.
Speaking of love letters.
From Software Games.
It's my first PS5 only platinum.
Ooh.
It's kind of crazy, right?
Too real.
Yeah. All right, so that's favorite things. Leads us to our next segment, which is DLC.
That wasn't your first PlayStation 5 Platinum. You had Astro's Playroom.
Oh, yeah. Touche.
Sorry, I saw it. I was like, wait.
Yeah. Good call.
DLC.
Right. DLC, it stands for downloadable content, and it's a segment that is a fun little game we play. It's a conversation you wouldn't normally have about video games that is sometimes inspired by our main topic. Sometimes it's not. And this one's going to be super simple, super Valentine's Day inspired, themed, but it's going to be real easy. Real easy one to just talk about. But I want to quickly brainstorm. You've heard of like candy hearts. You've heard of chocolate in fun shapes to give to a loved one. But I want to talk about what would be a fun either game logo or game character or something video game related that would be fun to give someone in like a heart-shaped box, like candy video game paraphernalia.
It sounds like you want to give someone a video game themed Valentine.
Kind of, not necessarily. Specifically food. I want to talk about food. What would be a fun video game like candy or chocolate that is made out of candy or chocolate but shaped in the form of, so like for example, chocolate Space Invaders.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to talk. I was going to throw out different ideas what you think would be fun and cute.
Yeah.
So
I have a good Easter idea, but that
it doesn't have to necessarily be like love related. It could just be like little candy Mario hats or something like that.
I was thinking of like
strawberry Mario hats. Would be delicious.
It would be easy to do Mario shaped candies, like little stars and mushrooms and such, that it's like candy hearts that has like little "You're my princess" emblazoned on them or something.
Oh my gosh, yes, on the back, like on the back is a little message.
You're my hero. You're my princess. But I was thinking of like something Chocobo related or Chocobo, like a Peep that's a Chocobo.
Yes,
delicious
Peep Chocobo, like marshmallow Chocobos. Oh my gosh,
maybe that would be. It would be awesome, but maybe that's more Easter themed than it would be Valentine's themed.
A little bit, but some people like it. Just all you have to do is make it like pink for Valentine's Day.
You could, or dip them in chocolate.
Ooh,
chocolate covered marshmallow.
Oh my gosh, chocolate covered. There are chocolate covered Peeps, I think, and they're delicious. There's chocolate and marshmallow is already a great combination thanks to s'mores. So it's a good one. Yeah, chocolate
covered chocobos. Yes, that's it. That's my thing. That's my DLC answer. Yep.
Nice. Chocolate covered chocobos. I was trying to think of something from The Witcher, like little candy swords and little candy, like the little wolf sigil or whatever.
Candy bathtubs.
That game's got like very robust romance options, which we'll talk about in this episode. So I feel like The Witcher
candy that'll turn your left arm into a banana. You know, it's fine.
What?
It's like the crazy magic in The Witcher.
That's true.
It's like these deformed people with these crazy problems. Yeah.
Okay. So mutant candy. That sounds like something from Bug Snacks, turning your arm into a banana.
It does. There
you go. Bug Snacks. Yeah, I was going to say Bug Snacks. There you go. Bug Snacks. Gummy Bug Snacks. That's it. Gummy Bug Snacks.
Was a bunger, the little burger shaped spider looking thing?
Dude, have you ever had the like gummy food that's not canned, like so the gummy burgers or gummy pizzas, gummy hot dogs? Have you ever had those before?
I don't think so.
You never heard of those?
Gummy shark is about the farthest on
the craziest. Yeah, no, there's this whole thing during the like early 2000s, I think it was, maybe late 90s is when it started. But like the company that makes all the gummies or whatever did like gummy versions of like savory foods. So there were, like I said, gummy hot dogs, gummy burgers. They tasted just fruity gummy, like they were just gummies. But the fact that they looked like little cheeseburgers, that's exactly that would be perfect for Bug Snacks. Little gummy ketchups and stuff like that. Yep. Ketchup bugs. Yeah, that's awesome. That would be perfect.
Gummy fried eggs.
That's awesome. Yeah, candy is one of my favorite parts about any holiday period. And I love the fact that like at least like 5 of our major holidays have some involvement of candy. Like there's candy at Christmas, there's candy at Halloween, obviously, there's candy at Easter, and there's candy at Valentine's Day. Yeah, that's great. I love candy, and I'm proud, I guess, of our America for pushing sugar down our throats every holiday as well. That's great.
So Memorial Day should have
makes
candy.
Me proud. Probably not. No, Memorial Day is actually like one of those solemn holidays that we're all supposed to be like, yeah, thankful for the troops, and not doing like little purple hearts candies or something ridiculous.
We could send candy to the troops.
Oh, there we go. The troops probably, maybe they would want candy. All right, we're all going to send candy to the troops for Memorial Day this year. Make it awesome. So. All right, that's the DLC for the day. So we want to hear, what are your video game related candy ideas that you think would be fun to give a loved one on Valentine's Day? Tell us, Termite, where can they give us their DLC feedback?
You can find us at 80bitpodsmash.com. It's our landing website with links to all of our podcast platforms as well as our social media platforms. Those social media platforms are the things you care about to interact with us. So Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, Discord, all of those things. Jump in, hit us on the chat, tag us, tweet at us, whatever you want to do. Tell us what your DLC candy, video game themed candy Valentine's Day gift would be. Maybe it's something Final Fantasy related, like a chocolate covered chocobo, and I want to hear about why you would give that to your significant other. So let us know. You can also find us on twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash in our live chats on both Monday and Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. for our weekly news show on Monday night called 80bit Newscast, and our weekly gameplay live streams every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. where Penguin and Termite alternate, or we play together in some fashion, some video game that we're digging, and you'll know that. A couple weeks ago, I played Sea of Thieves because I'm still into it. So you'll have already seen that when this episode goes live. So more of that is what Termite does. And Penguin plays a lot of Soulsborne games, which you have seen him do in Demon Souls. So,
and JRPGs, apparently. I've been on a JRPG and Soulsborne kick. And that's why I need Code Vein to marry those two.
Yes.
Working on it. Working on getting it. Sorry.
Wasn't Code Vein like $8 today or something?
What? Really?
Yeah, it was super cheap. I don't remember. I saw the notification. I didn't know you were interested. I would have forwarded it to you.
Yeah. Hit me up because I want it. I want it.
I want that.
I saw it today at GameStop for like a used version is like $12, but if I can get it even cheaper for $8, I'll take a digital copy. Whatever. I want it.
All right. Anyway, go ahead. That's it. That's where you can find us.
That's it. Yay.
80bitpodsmash.com.
All right. Fantastic. Well, yeah. As we've been talking about this whole episode, in honor of Valentine's Day, we're talking about romance systems. Romance in video games is interesting and a very big topic, apparently. We could probably split this up into multiple different topics, but we'll try to cover as much as we can in the time that we have. And if we decide we need to do a follow-up, we can always do that. But so let's start at the beginning. What is a romance system in a video game?
Do we have a Wikipedia article to read?
No, this is one of the first ones where I couldn't find. Maybe I didn't word it. I found a whole Wikipedia article on dating sims, which is probably the closest to this, but it's a little different though. Though dating sims are kind of a part of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about more about like romance systems as like a part of a video game. Which again, that does include dating systems. It's just that in a dating sim, the romance is the video game. In this case, we're talking about the romance system in general. What is it and how does it work?
Romance systems in video games, I'm going to just kind of define it as like...
Sure, do it yourself.
Some relationship that is being established in a video game that is either manipulated by the player or manipulated by the storyteller and the developers, but it is the evolution of a relationship between two video game characters in a romantic fashion from beginning to end across the course of a video game.
Yeah, usually it's, I guess I had more in mind like player-controlled romance systems where it's like this is a built-in part of the game design. The choices you make or the actions you take positively or negatively affect your success or failure in the romance system, as opposed to something like Nathan Drake and Elena's relationship in Uncharted is going to happen no matter what you do, unless you just can't beat a level. They're going to get together and then break up over and over again over the course of the 4 games.
Yeah, that's definitely less of a system because there's not really anything behind it at all. It's just the story.
Yeah, so so in my kind of definition, I was thinking more of like this is a part of the video game design, a part of the like player agency in the game that has a successful or failed outcome that may or may not actually affect the rest of the game's outcome as well. Again, in the case of a dating sim, it is the entire game. In the case of The Witcher, you're not going to lose the game. You're not going to lose anything if you don't pursue the romances. So, cool.
Good definition for the purposes of this conversation. I like it.
Yeah, porpoises. Like dolphins, except not.
What'd you call me?
Porpoise.
Thanks.
Will you be the porpoise to my dolphin?
Hot.
All right, so cool. What's kind of the history, the origin here? Where do romance systems come from in video games, and what was the first video game, if we can come to that decision, what is the first video game to include a romance system?
There's surprisingly very little resources out there that are accessible to us, and I actually learned something in what little bit of research I could do, was that romantic video games are traced back to the heydays of visual novels in Japan.
Yep.
Of all things. I would have thought that romantic systems would have been traced back to like the original adventure games of the like PC era in the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, I don't think they had a lot of... I think they were focused more on just like the role-playing elements and the sort of like the fantasy stories. They maybe even had like rescue a princess or something and she falls in love with you, but like that was just part of built into the narrative of the game, comparable to something like Zelda or Mario or Uncharted, where it's a pre-packaged experience for you. But like the idea of being able to like pick a lover and romance them to curry their favor, like that's much later, or rather or evolved from a much different medium.
For lack of like a robust resource, I'm just going to quote this cool like redbull.com article on the history of love in video games, which is random, but okay, it has the information here. The first, quote, real romantic game was Koei. So we know Koei today as Koei Tecmo because they merged. So Tecmo and Koei were separate at one point. They had a game called Nightlife in 1982. It was an adult title, but promised visual aids for couples as well. And they're now known for Dynasty Warriors and stuff. And like Koei Tecmo has come out with like Nintendo's Hyrule Warriors, Calamity of Ganon.
Age of Calamity. They also have Persona. They also have Persona 5 Strikers. Yeah, which it probably does have a romance system in it, actually, coming full circle.
I bet it does,
because Persona 5 does, and the like non-combat gameplay model of Strikers is the same as Persona 5. You have character relationships and confidants and all that stuff. So I bet there are romance options in that as well. So
this title, Nightlife, which came out for the FM7 and the PC 8001 back in April of 1982, was touted as an educational tool by the company to help couples enhance their intimate life with one another.
Oh my.
So that was the whole purpose of this game. That, to me, it's one definition. It's one side of the spectrum of romance systems in games.
Yeah, that's funny. And there is an entire, like I said, there's an entire genre that I don't know if I ever want to cover on this show, even though it is an entire genre on its own. But there is an entire dating sim genre where that's exactly what it is. It's like, but it's everything from like this, kind of more like The Sims, where it's just like simulating dating for lonely people, I guess, and then everything to like the fantasy stuff of like the like anime girls, and that's where it gets really weird. If you're into
risque.
That, no judgment. It's weird to me, but it is. I'm sure plenty of people. I mean, the fact that there's so many of them and they sell very well on Steam and stuff, and all you have to do is pull up your Steam browser, and if you scroll down far enough, you'll see Steam recommend plenty of them to you. But they're kind of the anime, adult dating games, to put it that way. And I mean, if that's your thing, more power to you. Have fun. Go ham. But it's not my thing. So I probably won't. We probably won't talk about it beyond this episode on the podcast because it's not our thing.
And I don't want to equate it to loneliness at all, because some people do it together. And some people do it as a group.
Fair,
and it's on Twitch. People do it together. So there's not necessarily a correlation of loneliness with romance games.
You are correct.
Whatever you're into, whatever we affirm you. You go do you. Go get your anime titles. Go get your dating sims. Have fun with it. Get your waifu. Get your husbandu, and have a blast.
And if you're into that as a couple too, that's also cool. You know what I mean? Like if it allows you to connect with another person, or if it allows you to connect with yourself, that's great. Have fun. Go ham. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. I'm good. Please stop recommending it to me, Steam.
I'm a little interested. Maybe I'll learn something about myself.
Right. Yeah, go do it. Go see. Ask your wife if she wants to do a dating sim. Play a dating sim with you. Find out what the most popular one is in the year 2020.
What if I want to do it with you?
What is triple? Okay, let's do it together.
Yes.
We're gonna. In fact, can you let me pick the Persona 5 romance option you choose? Because you only get one girlfriend, and there's like 18 to choose from. So
does it have to be a girl?
It does, unfortunately. That was one of the criticisms of Persona 5. Came out as recently as 2017, and they did not allow they unapologetically did not allow a homosexual option for what's his name, Joker. So, anyways,
back on the rails. Romance games. Romance systems in games.
Yeah. So, how do they work? How do romance systems simulate real life relationships? And the question beyond the question, the additional question is, what do they get right, and what do they get wrong about real romance? As two married men, we have at least some very low level of ability to talk about what real romance looks like, and right. we may not be authorities, but we have some real world experience with romance. So, what do you think that video games that you've seen get right or wrong about real romance, and how do they work? How does the system usually work, play out in video games?
Articulate two kind of different front-facing examples, and one of them is Final Fantasy VII, the original one. The romance system in that game was very back burner, and you had no idea what was going on until certain events, and it only made itself known across two events, maybe. And
it was like five. There's like five. And that is a good highlight, because like usually, I'm not gonna say in every case, but usually the primary means by which romance systems operate, the like moment to moment, how does this work, is through dialogue options. It is a part of the dialogue options of the game. So you are supposed to make certain choices that will indicate, when talking with characters, that indicate who you will be with, or whom, many, I guess, plural of who, you will end up with. But sorry, carry on. Final Fantasy VII.
Well, I was saying with like Final Fantasy VII, there's a dating scene in Golden Saucer that is the result of the romance system, and I think that's the only event in the entire game that's actually affected by it. I don't remember. That's why I was saying maybe two. There might be some other weird dialogue injections that happen, but are very inconsequential. It's very back burner.
Certain characters die no matter how they feel about you or you feel about them. So.
Yep, it's very like rigid, but the system at play is based on dialogue choices that has a point system in the background that people who have reverse engineered the entire game have decided that these dialogue choices at these specific points in the game can determine who you will ultimately go on a date with during the Golden Saucer thing. And that is a romance system. It's kind of archaic.
And they kind of recreated it in the remake as well. Like there's no obvious point system where you can check and tally to see who you love more. It just kind of, you make the choices and then you get the result that you get. Right. And and like the original, there are 3 results. Yep.
And the other side of that coin, what the other kind of example I want to give is like The Witcher or Dragon Age or Cyberpunk, where it's much more articulated. It's kind of paced throughout the entire game. You can develop a relationship with a character that actually goes as far as to the ending of the game, and you have to do certain dialogue options or certain actions in the game. It
was a little disappointing in Cyberpunk. You just had to make certain choices at a very specific point. Like it was like none of your choices up to that point mattered. It was just like, so you could treat this character like trash the entire game and then suddenly be like, I want to be in love with you. And they're like, okay. Whereas in The Witcher, it was much more, you had to make good choices throughout. But in both games, I believe you could have multiple partners, whereas in Persona it's exclusive. So I highlight Persona, where it's like, so again, it all depends on the game you're playing, right? Both Final Fantasy and Persona, the choice you made is the choice you get. You don't get to make another choice. So that's kind of like 2 separate ways of handling it. The Witcher, Geralt gets to go be Geralt, or however you want Geralt to be. If you want Geralt to be monogamous, great. If you want him to be polyamorous, great. Whereas in Persona, they kind of force you into monogamy, and Final Fantasy for that regard as well.
And then there's the third end of that is the Uncharted's of the world, where there's just a romance in a game that happens, and regardless of what the player does, you don't have any agency, and it's going to just go forth and do its thing based on the writers and the storytellers. And so that's kind of what we're not highlighting during the show, but I do want to at least roll that in there and bring a little bit of light on it, just to say, like, that's a romance system too, as video games have evolved in their storytelling technologies and ways, and writers have evolved, and like video games are becoming more artistic and better at becoming more cinematic experiences. They can pull on our heartstrings with relationships that happen even if we don't have a dialogue choice behind it or a number system in the background that's determining who we're going to end up with.
Yep.
So I do want to give some credit to that, but we won't talk about that anymore, and we'll just go back to our relationship systems in video games that have those. Yeah.
Cool. Well, what do they get right and what do they get wrong about real romance?
Well,
or I should say real romantic relationships.
Right. Yeah. And so I was laughing because what they get wrong is hilarious in that it's just numbers and logic in the background. And it really doesn't really have anything to do with feelings or like.
No. Yeah. Which is complete opposite. Yeah. I was going to say the idea of the guaranteed outcome, like, I mean, in some ways it could be, in some ways, it could be a little bit harder to get the outcome you want, like in The Witcher, where you have multiple dialogue options over the course of multiple interactions with these characters that weigh in. But you can Google it.
Yep.
There is no one that you know, for you single people, here's a bit of advice. There is no one in the world out there that you like, that you may or may not like, whom you can Google exactly how to romance them, exactly what choices to make to romance them. It is again, whenever you're dealing with the feelings of another person, you have to take their agency into account, and it doesn't always go that way. So, you know, being able to, a video game gives you the fantasy of being like, I have to just do this specific set of things and win. And it can kind of create a false expectation with romance and the idea of romance. But I will say what they get right is the primary means by which you romance someone is dialogue in real life too. So, like, I mean, there's other things. Obviously, body language plays into a big count. Your actions,
life choices,
nonverbal actions, life choices for sure. And then, of course, the personality of the other person plays heavily into whether or not, you know, some girls or boys or non-binary folk like some things and some like other things. So one person might be like, I like this, and the other person might be like, no, I hate that, that's disgusting, or that's gross, or that offends me. So yeah, there's it's like sometimes it doesn't really matter, you know, what you do or what you say. Two people could take it completely different ways. So, but yeah, the fact that it's all, you know, dialogue choices, you gotta say the right things. you gotta say the right things. At the end of the day, that's what's going to seal the deal, is saying the right things. Because all that body language, all that personality, all those actions, unless you get to the point where you're like, hey, do you want to go forward with this? It will never happen, probably. I guess there are exceptions to that, so I shouldn't speak in absolutes. But in most cases, a dialogue choice has to be made at some point in real life as well.
Yep. And like, well, I guess another con or like a pitfall is not every game is going to cater to a person's methods. Like, I'm the kind of person that I want to make all expectations and intentions made known very clearly, and my actions will meet that. Whereas there are certain people who like to play kind of flirty games and drop little hints and like kind of tease and play and play hard to get. And like, so there's different ways that you would romance in real life.
I just tricked my wife.
Articulate.
I was just like, hey, we've been dating for 6 months. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, we should probably make it Facebook official now. And she was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, you know, we've been dating. She's like, I guess that's true.
Nice. So you just go with straight manipulation.
No, trickery. Trickery's not a
whatever
sin.
You want to call it. And I'm like, look, I'm dating to find a wife.
Look,
and
that's a manipulation too. That's a manipulation. Everything's manipulation.
It's putting all of your expectations out there up front to like, I'm not wasting your time.
In order to get a specific result, aka manipulation. Not all manipulation's bad. We all manipulate each other.
I guess.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, but it's not trickery. I'm all up front. I'm honest and
I'm just kidding. That's not how it happened, but we joke.
Yeah. But video games can't do that. But what
Right.
they can do, and I'm going to use The Witcher 3 as another example because
Sure.
it's one of the ones I've actually played through, is if you
And
don't
it's so
follow
prolific.
a guide.
There's so much. Yeah. Mhm.
There's so many different romance options in The Witcher 3. Apparently Dragon Age has like done this, and I haven't played any of them, and I'm so bummed that I've never
Mass
played a
Effect?
Dragon
I think
Age.
Mass Effect does this too, where you have
Mass
multiple.
Effect Yep. BioWare is like the kings of
romance.
systems.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, that's
And,
one of their best.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red did it in The Witcher 3, and it's the only one I know, so it's the only one I can kind of articulate. And I imagine what BioWare has done is very analogous to what CD Projekt Red has done with The Witcher, so I'll just go with The Witcher. And there's multiple romance options, and if you don't follow a guide, if you don't look at the characters in advance and say, oh, I really like Yennefer, I really want to go with Triss. Like, if you don't do that and you just play the game and you try to interact with these people as who you would want Geralt to be, it's really well done, and the outcomes can be surprising, just like real relationships can be. You can invest a certain amount of time and effort into a specific person, and that romance not materialize at the end, and you end up with someone else, and it would catch you by surprise. And
I kind of like that. I kind of like doing it that way, where it's like I kind of go. That's what I do with Persona. Is like I didn't look up a guide. I just kind of went in and was like, I'm going to try to. Actually, no, sorry, I did look up a guide because I needed it for a trophy. Never mind, I did look up a guide, but I still was able to kind of make the choice that I wanted. But what I did go in, I went into Persona being like, I thought I knew who I was going to romance, but then I went into it and I was like, I'm going to have an open mind though, and ended up changing my mind because I was like, I like this character better. So I ended up going. So that was sort of a surprise, a genuine kind of like, I was looking up a guide because I needed to do it specifically for a trophy, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to be surprised about who I choose. So, Is
there a trophy tied to a specific do you have to pick a certain person?
No. You just have to pick someone. So nice. The guide I was following gave you the romance. The guide I was following for the trophy gave you the points in time when you have the option. So so I knew when they were coming and I knew what choices to make for each one. Okay. But I was like, but I'm going to pick the one I want when I want. Yeah.
And that's a thing that video games do that's good when it comes to like mimicking real life romance and how that can kind of play out.
Sure, giving you that's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, in many cases I hate the idea in American culture in American dating culture that we have of the idea that there's one person out there for you who's perfect for you. Like that mentality is so damaging. I hate it because like, what if your dreams come true, you marry your one or whatever and they die? I had a acquaintance I knew whose fiance died like a few months before their wedding due to like a negative reaction to birth control. That
yikes.
Crazy. Like, so if you have that mentality of there's one person for me and then tragedy happens, like how damaging is that going to be to your psyche? It's much healthier to believe there are multiple people out there that you are compatible with. You could have multiple ones, quote unquote, over the course of your life. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine to have that mentality. And so, on the one hand, video games can do that very well. On the other hand, video games can create this sort of fantasy where you're like a romantic god, and all these women are throwing themselves at you. You kind of see that in Persona, actually, as sort of a negative aspect to that, where it's like, oh, all these women are totally in love with me. And that's damaging in its own right, too, because if you have that mentality, you're also going to act probably callously towards many women. So it's important to also recognize the fact that nope, women probably don't, or women or men, again, this goes both ways, or always, the people you probably feel affection towards or attraction towards, I should say, most of them probably aren't attracted to you and will only be attracted to you if you act kindly and decently towards them. So act kindly and decently towards people is what I'm trying to get at. Don't like fall into the video game trap of being like, all these women love me or all these men love me, because video games taught me that, I guess. So that's kind of a downside too.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's it.
Anything else?
What's the next question?
I guess the question, so that's more of like what do they get wrong about real romance? This next question is more focused towards what do romance systems add or detract from video game design? Like, do they add anything to games, or are they just kind of flavor, texture, whatever you want to call it?
I guess it depends on game to game. Some, like the Cyberpunk situation, for example, there's not really much added to the romance system because you don't have anything at risk to lose or gain by romancing. Where Persona, I do believe, you can correct me, of course, because I haven't played it yet, like certain people, if you romance them, actually have a game mechanic that's changing the battle, like gives you buffs or debuffs or boosts, right?
I don't think so. No, at least not in Persona 5. Yeah, no. Okay. It's just but it is exclusive. So if you make the choice, you can't make another choice. If you come to the dialogue options that you have, I believe where you could then romance another character, they'll be like, don't you already have a girlfriend or something like that? I believe. Gotcha. So you actually do get locked out of dialogue choices, I think. Maybe not. Because now that I'm thinking about it, I remember doing all of the romances anyways, just to see them. Like, I would basically just reload my save, because you save throughout constantly in Persona 5. And so I would just, like, go see the romance through, just because I wanted to see the cutscenes, and then reload. So maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's not exclusive. There's like they do make a big deal about the romance, though.
Yeah, I've heard lots of things about the romance system in Persona. I can't wait to play it. I'm so close. As soon as I'm done with Cyberpunk, I'm jumping into Persona 5. I can't wait. But yeah, so game design, when it comes to romance systems, it's one thing for a storytelling perspective, and that kind of doesn't really affect the game itself. It's just the story that's happening, which does affect the game. But if you have a mechanic tied to a romance system, I'm failing to draw a good example of it. But if you have specific romantic relationships that affect the gameplay, if you are a better person at specific types of combat or magic, or you're more defensive or more offensive based on who you choose to romance, then to me, that is more ingrained in the actual player agency and would entice you on a different level, because sometimes you want to be super defensive or you want to be super offensive. And so you would just use the romance system as a way to boost your stats, and that could not be beneficial. So you almost want to strike this balance of, you want the player, it's about player risk. You want them to think about and engage the player to think about who they're going to romance in the game from both a storytelling, and you want to weave that whole system into the mechanics of the game itself. And to go too far on either end kind of makes either the relationship seem pointless because they don't affect anything and they're just story stuff and you're not really going to miss anything, or it makes them too ingrained and then I'm just leveraging the romance system to make my character the way I want, and then it becomes flat. So it's very difficult to strike that balance between the two.
Yeah, I find that romance systems stress me out sometimes in video games, just because I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I prefer to just love the character, like the characters, admire them from a distance. Like, oh, I have a fondness for this character, but like, if I don't romance them, does that mean I don't care for them as much? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, there's sort of the appreciation you have as a player, you know, consuming a story and enjoying a story, but then the romance system makes you feel like you have a motivation then to do something about it. Whereas like with Final Fantasy, I liked it because it was so in the background that it was more like it's so subtle that it's more like you don't necessarily know, if you're playing for the first time, you don't know that this date's coming. So the result of the date is really almost more indicative of how you truly feel, because you're just making choices throughout. You know what I mean? Like it was one of the better examples of a romance system, because one of the contributing factors that comes into play is one of the only examples I know of a nonverbal like choice that you make in a game that affects a romance option. And it's literally you, Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith all fall into a pit together, like into a sewer together. And your three options are to either choose walk over to check on Tifa first, walk over to check on Aerith first, or just go alone by yourself and then they both wake up on their own or whatever. And like, again, depending on your choice, it's +1 in either direction or whatever. +1 in +1 to Tifa, +1 to Aerith, or +0 to either. So like, I mean, that's great because it's more indicative of kind of how you feel. So I'm not saying, you know, I think they're fine. I think in most cases, if I feel like if the game kind of forces me to go with a romance system, like with a romance, like at least one for like a trophy or something, I'll usually pick one and then Google if I'm interested, if I'm intrigued on what the romance scenario how that plays out with other characters. I can always Google it, YouTube it later, and watch the cutscenes or watch the dialogue, you know, bits if I want to. I know I did that. I think I did that with to some level. I did that with Cyberpunk just to see what how the other options played out, and then Persona, it was easy for me to just do it in game itself with saving and reloading and all that stuff. But that's right. I remember now because in Persona, there's the date, like the literal dating system, like in regards to not dating as in dating, but there's like the game, you go through different days of the week that have dates attached to them. And on February 14th, you go out on a date. And if you pick one character, an exclusive girlfriend, you have a nice, pleasant, wonderful, cute cutscene. If you pick multiples, you have a really funny cutscene where they all try to go out with you at the same time and on February 14th, and it's hilarious. So I remember, I think I did look up that one to see how that played out because It's funny. But anyway, so yeah, I find that like and in that regard, it doesn't really add anything, because if the intention, I think, of a dating or romance system in a game is to get you to, feel close to a character. And maybe I'm the kind of personality where I'll feel close to the characters whether a system's in there or not.
Right.
And then when you add that extra layer of a system, then I feel like I have to make a choice, and that stresses me out sometimes. Whereas I'm like, can't I just admire them all from a distance and not engage in romance?
You're
them?
Scared of committing.
Maybe, but not. Also not. Like, I'm happy to like. I prefer Triss over Yennefer, period.
Uh-huh.
But like The Witcher 3 made me feel so much for Yennefer that like then I was like, but I like Yennefer. I don't want to like spurn Yennefer just because I like Triss better. So can't I just like them from a distance and enjoy Triss privately in my own thoughts more so than Yennefer, while also being like, but Yennefer was a pretty cool bae too. You know what I mean? Like, but I like Yennefer too. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I always find that romance systems are like a weird thing for me in video games. Like, I almost prefer like Fable, the way Fable did it, where it's just like, you find a villager you like, you romance her. You know what I mean? You make it, because it's not like any of the main characters or whatever. It's just
so
like
inconsequential. It's just like, here's a person you can marry. Let's
totally
just do that.
Like, hey, that villager in town look cute. Like, you can totally romance them. Like that, I almost prefer, because it's just like, yeah, it can be anyone and everyone. Like that you want to romance. That's almost more preferable in my mind.
Yeah, and then like usually romance in storytelling is used to raise the stakes of the protagonist or like the player in this case. And I would really like a romance system that plays into that. And I feel like that's the struggle you have. You like it so that the stakes aren't that high when you have a choice. So when the stakes are high and you have a choice, you get very uncomfortable and very like anxious about the situation, because you're like, oh man. And that, I think, there's something to be leveraged there that should be used more often in games.
Can you imagine if the choice you made in Final Fantasy VII determined which one of those characters died? Like, the stakes are so too high. The stakes are too high. I'm so sad. No, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that video games can find a way to enhance, is that like, and that leads us nicely to our next question. What would you like to see more of from romance systems? Like, quite frankly, like, there are high stakes in romance, like in real life. Like that is part, it's stakes in and of itself, right? Like, there's great benefit to come from romance in real life, and there can also be a lot of great heartbreak that comes from romance in real life. So finding a way to elicit that and evoke that in video games will just make them a stronger storytelling and artistic medium to find a way to truly make the player feel that gamut and range of emotions through a romance system would actually be pretty incredible. And potentially painful and damaging experience, so it'd have to be done very elegantly. But you're right, yeah. Like in most cases, it is inconsequential. It doesn't really affect. It's just a flavor. It's just an added bit, and maybe an extra cutscene or two, but nothing really that truly makes a difference in the game. But and yeah, that is like one of the most powerful storytelling tools that they have. Is I think of like the stakes in Uncharted 4, like when Nathan and Elena had broken up and gotten back together so much over the course of the rest of the games, that when they're finally together and happy in 4, and then Nathan's making decisions that put that in jeopardy, it's just like, you idiot! You have a wonderful marriage with a wonderful girl. Stop ruining it.
Yep.
And that works great in linear storytelling, but when you have these dialogue options for multiple relationships, like, it does kind of water it down sometimes to make it something that's less powerful.
Right. Yeah, I mean, think about like The Last of Us Part 2. I don't know if that's like available to be spoiled yet, so I won't go into too much detail, but Ellie, the main character, has a romantic interest, and they find happiness, and then the story progresses, and puts that
in jeopardy,
affects things, and goes into so much more going on. And then the antithesis of the protagonist, but is yet the second playable protagonist, also has a romantic interest, and that affects their decisions as well. And so all that stuff is leveraged, but again, that's outside of player choice. That's just the story that's been written, that you're on a track. and you are playing a game that's written and developed by someone that's the track you're going to follow.
Yeah.
So what I want to see in the future is the things that happen in games like The Last of Us Part 2 with their relationships, but in a more organic way that is tied to player dialogue, yet inconsequential, so that you don't want to look up a guide. You don't want a trophy tied to a specific choice. You don't want,
please stop.
So we have to get out of, like, if you really want to highlight a good romance system, you have to get away from this idea of looking up a guide to figure out who you want the most. You want the player,
because then you've already made a choice, as opposed to being offered a bunch of choices and then choosing the one that you genuinely feel like. You're just being like, which are, not saying that everyone does this, but it's very easy to be like, oh, I think that one's hotter. I think the redhead's hotter. So, like, let's go with that or whatever. And then as opposed to, like, genuinely being like, oh, I actually like this character for their personality, because that's how, for the most part, romance happens in real life. Like, yes, of course, attraction plays a huge part into it. I'm not going to try to minimize that, but most people care about their significant other, grow to care about their significant other for their personality more than just their good looks. So, like, yeah, so finding a way to actually, like, enhance that in video games would be great. I agree with that.
A baby step in the correct direction, and what I'm looking for is Cyberpunk, actually. And this is because I genuinely loved Panam. She was amazing. And I loved her whole story and her backstory, and she's who I wanted to romance. But because I chose a female main character protagonist, I could not.
Right, because she rejected you. She was not.
Right.
Yep.
And it put that romance system into the NPC. Like, that's how romance works. It's not about you. It's about the other person.
Right,
and the
their
other person's
preferences
not
and their
going
choices.
to... Yes, and I think Cyberpunk touched on something that is a little bit more profound than they think they know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because there's a lot of people who are frustrated that they couldn't romance who they wanted to, and it's kind of like,
well, that's life.
Turn the mirror on that statement, bro. Like, yes, you can't just romance and get the outcome you want. You have to take into consideration the other person's preferences. So it would be crazy to see a video game where, like, every NPC, kind of like Legion, like a Watch Dogs Legion, every NPC has a pre-coded set of preferences, and if your character doesn't meet those preferences, then you can't romance them. That would be crazy. Another thing I think I would like to see in more video games romance systems, if I can squeeze this in real quick, is I would love to see more nonverbal means of romance, because, like, think about if in Final Fantasy VII, we'll just keep going back to this Final Fantasy VII idea, but, like, think if more than just the in addition to the dialogue choices, in addition to the other nonverbal choices you make throughout the game, what if, like, who you healed more, or who you let die more, or who you chose to be in your party, total hours in the party, what if all those were also contributing factors to your outcome? Like, that would be, again, those are nonverbal things. Those are just, but, like, those would simulate, like, if you were to spend more time with a girl or a boy in life, like, they would be more likely to like you. If you were to do nicer things to them, like heal them when they got beat up or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like, then they would be more likely to like you. So, like, things like that, I think, would be really cool to see factored into or included in, especially RPGs that have romance systems.
You articulated exactly what I wanted to talk about, but I'll add the last bit that you didn't quite cover, and that is the technological advancement in computing that I would love to see leveraged, and that's like machine learning or some sort of AI that looks at exactly what you were talking about and uses those as metrics in generating algorithms that, like, come up with decisions and then present you with some sort of, like, different types of dialogue at different times than other players, so that at point, chapter 2 of this game, I'm interacting with so-and-so, but you're not, or we're both interacting with so-and-so with an entirely different set of dialogue choices. And knowing that those don't block you from trophies, or, like, they don't require you to look at guides. It's just like, this is how it is. I'm talking to Yennefer and she is offering me these things. You talked to Yennefer and she wanted to murder me on the spot. And, like, it's completely based on a ridiculous set of inputs that no one would ever be able to perfectly match.
Right,
because I think that would be awesome.
Because, like real life, it's learning as it goes, and it's making changes as it goes. Yeah, that would be. We have the technology to do that now. Period. We may inadvertently create psychotic love bots as a result, but you know what? That's fine.
As long as they're not self-serving and they cause us to serve others, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I imagine this, like, crazy AI takeover that was specifically a result of video game romance choices that started that way, and then it like grew and grew, and it's like, you must love me, I will make all humans love me. And then the robot apocalypse occurs as a result.
That's how it happens. You just predict the future.
I did. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be a Witcher flavored robot apocalypse. Yennefer's face will be plastered across all planets, all of them, all the planets, not just our planet, all the planets. Anyway. That I think that wraps us up now that we're kind of spinning out of control talking about love bots. I agree that we have the technology to do that. I mean, that's the thing. Something like that is totally doable with technology, the way technology is going, I think. So the first game that includes something like that would be... The first game that includes something like that with dialogue choices, period, whether it's romantic based or not, would be awesome. Yeah. Where like the NPCs learn over time based on choices you've made and then give you different choices instead of just pre-programmed ones. That'd be awesome. So, cool. Well, then that could get us into an entirely different conversation. So let's end there. That is our show. We want to hear what your thoughts are on romance systems in games, dating sims, whatever we've touched on that you want to talk more about. We want to hear those thoughts. So Termite, where can the good pod smashers of the internet interact with us if they want to talk to us about romance systems, or if they just want to send us some Valentine's Day love, then where can they hit us up?
Social media is a great platform with which to interact and send Valentine's Day love our way. So please go to 80bitpodsmash.com, where you'll find links to all of our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and Discord. We have links to our Discord server in all of our show notes, as well as on the website. And if you want to interact with us live, you don't want to send something asynchronously out into the abyss, but you would rather have our attention, go to our twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash channel, and you will find us live on Monday and Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m., where you will have our undistracted, undivided attention in our chat window, interacting with other members of our community and ourselves. You control us, hate us, love us, whatever you would like. At any of those platforms, we would love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to us so that you are aware on the fly of what we're doing, when we're live, what we're talking about, where we're going to be, and what we're doing. So hit us up. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, and do all those things that keep you attached to us so that you are not left behind in the content that is 80-Bit Pod Smash.
Sweet. Well, then we will have an episode next week. We don't know what it's going to be yet because we haven't done that brainstorming, but it will be great and it will be wonderful, and we will see you then.
See you next week!